Hey guys, I want to talk about the concept of relationship equity, what it is, and I don't want to say it's dangerous. It definitely can be if it's not used or understood correctly. Um, what it is, the concept of relationship equity, you see this a lot with the white knight types, the men who come in and write in it to save the woman, or those of us who grew up on a healthy diet of Disney just kind of sort of thought that's how relationships go. I'm supposed to hop onto a white horse and go riding up to a castle and rescue a woman and make her my princess and do all these things. And if you're a Disney girl and grew up on that mindset, you might very well expect the same thing. But the concept of relationship equity is just basically, I do all these things. I pay the bills. I'm the one who bought the house. I did this. I'm the one who takes the kids to school. I do all the cooking. And where equity comes in is where you expect contribution in kind, not necessarily to you, not necessarily out of obligation, but nobody likes to feel like they're the only ones doing the heavy lifting in the house, right? And one of the dangers of relationship equity is that we're all acutely aware of our own contributions. However, we are not so in tune to the contributions of whoever it is we're with. We're not naturally in tune to it, okay? Because when they're there, when we see them doing it, it's on our mind, but we're not always together 24 hours of the day. So, what does this mean? I'll give a really good example. My wife is Hispanic, and she likes to dance. I can't dance at all. I'm one of these people that's just so bad. If I go out onto the dance floor, I just own it because I'm not going to look good trying, and I'd rather just be doing my own thing and do it confidently and just know that this is absolutely incorrect and I'm cool with it than to actually try, because if I'm sitting there trying, I'm going to suck horribly, okay? And so I was talking to my wife last night, and I said, I want to start using, because she gets 2 days off in a row. She works 4 days on, 2 days off, and it slowly rotates around in the week. So I said, I want to start using, like the evening of your first night off, to spend 20, 30 minutes and practice dancing. And she kind of looks at me and she's like, no. And I'm like, but I mean, that's kind of sort of how I want to use the time so I can take you out and actually go dancing. She's like, if you want to learn to dance, take me out. I was sitting there thinking, I mean, I'm not going to go out to a dance club where the music's thumping and bumping and ask for a lesson, right? And so she's just like, that's my one day off. I'm tired. I don't want to spend my evening off doing that. And so what goes through my head instantly is like, I mean, I do all these things for you, but you don't want to help me in this one regard. I mean, it's an immediate, just kind of sort of, I guess, sort of just an automatic reaction to rejection. And I caught myself. It's like, I mean, so what if I do all these things? She does plenty herself. If she doesn't want to, that's fine. So I'll just find my own way. So that's going to involve, just finding, there's a little dance studio around the corner from the neighborhood. So I'm probably just going to pay for a lesson or two down there. Solved. But when you have these expectations, when you're overly conscious of relationship equity, and you make that one of the primary drivers of your relationship and your interaction, it should never really dictate how decisions are made on what to do next. You should never lens a relationship in terms of obligations around equity. I do these things, but so you're obligated to do these things for me. It doesn't work like that. Why? In a relationship, the other person just typically is completely unaware of your perception of relationship equity. They know you do things, they do things, you do things. Both of us are working hard. We're both contributing. Cool it down a little bit, you know? Because the first thing that you're going to run into anytime you try to evoke it or invoke it, whatever, voke it, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get clapped back. Like, you act like you're the only person that does things in the relationship. I do plenty. And I mean, that's probably a valid statement. You know, so let it go. If your partner tells you no, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I tell my wife no all the time. Hell, that's probably one reason why I gotta know. So, you know, it is what it is. She doesn't want to. Fine, that's her choice. If it's something I really want to do, then I need to go find somewhere else to do it. Relationship equity should not define obligations between partners at all. What it does define is it defines the stability of the relationship, the stability of the family, and the stability of the lifestyle. That's where it comes in. You know, when you have equally equitous participations in relationships, that's the most stable, the most secure existence and relationship in life that you can have. But it should not transition over into obligations. Now, this is where I want to talk about guilt, because guilt is not a natural emotion. Guilt is 100% always the result of manipulation, okay? When you feel guilty, feeling guilty is not a natural emotion, not like, you know, anger, sadness, or depression, or, exhilaration. Guilt usually comes about when you have done something wrong or made a mistake. When you feel guilty, it always precipitates from the fact somebody else has notified you or told you or brought something up or brought something to light to you specifically and said, here you go, you should feel guilty about this. And it doesn't, you know, it could be any number of things, right? But the mechanism of it is still the same. In order for you to feel guilty, there has to be some sort of information brought to your attention by somebody to make you feel guilty over, okay? Now, I mean, yes, in general, there are exceptions, but I'm just talking about in a relationship and the vast majority of the time, okay? So edge cases and outliers, yeah, sure, that those exist all the time. I'm not addressing that. So when you feel guilty, when somebody says, you know, why not? I mean, I do this for you, I do this for you, I do this for you, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. Why can't you do this? Right? There's some problems with that. Number one, usually in a healthy, balanced relationship, both sides contribute about as much as they possibly could contribute or feel that they should, right? So both sides are already contributing as much as they feel they should to a relationship. So when somebody else guilts you, or when you guilt somebody else, what you're actually doing is you're actually saying, I am now putting you in the position to do more than what you feel is your fair share on account of how I feel. So I am now expecting you to take on an increasing burden of responsibility because right now I do not feel good, and the solution to me feeling better is by you increasing your workload and increasing your share of of responsibilities and the equity of the relationship. That's what that does. If you're in a relationship where you're constantly being made to feel guilty, it becomes exhausting. Why is it exhausting? Because you're now contributing more than what you feel is right or fair. And what is right and fair? Most of the time, people contribute as much as they possibly can while still maintaining comfort in the relationship, right? So when you start submitting into guilt and submitting into these equity-based expectations, guilt, requirements, that kind of things, you are now extended beyond what you naturally feel your contribution should be. And yes, every once in a while, that's how a relationship works. It can't always be evenly yoked 100% of the time, all the time. Usually that's the case in a relationship. Somebody pulls hard for a while, and then the other one pulls hard in another direction, at a later point in time. Sometimes you take turns. And that's the normal dynamic of a relationship. But when you start using guilt to offload some of your responsibilities onto the other, that's not that's manipulation. That's not right, and it's not fair. Now, not to say that you should never get your partner to do something else or contribute more, but you don't do it out of guilt. And the one reason that you should never have for doing this is your personal feelings. Like, okay, your feelings don't really matter when it comes to adjusting the workload of your partner and your partner's contribution to the relationship. Your emotions, your feelings don't really matter when it comes to that sort of arrangement. It should be based on who has time, who has the skills, and who has the ability, right? The more capable partner should probably just take over in that area. Why? Because it's less of a workload for that one partner than it would be for the other. And if you have a task that greatly exacerbates the workload of one partner, that drags a relationship down, okay? Like I said in the beginning, my wife's Hispanic. I don't do all the Spanish correspondence for the family. Why? I'm not all that Spanish, okay? She does that. It would be horrendous if I had to do all of the Spanish communication for us. No, we don't do that. I handle the English side. She handles some of the English side too. She handles the Spanish side. Simple. And she doesn't ever say something like, you really need to learn Spanish because I'm having to do all the Spanish communication all by myself, and it's not right or fair that I have to do all the Spanish communication. Not whenever you're smart enough, you speak a little bit of Spanish. I'm not saying you have to be fluent and learn the whole thing. You don't have to be fluent. You don't have to be, a super gung-ho, Hispanic, or, you don't have to be a fluent Spanish speaker. But you need to learn Spanish well enough to do the communications, because I'm not doing all of it by myself. That's not right. That's not fair. That's a big one for manipulators. It's not fair. By what definition? Yours? No. So keep that in mind. You split up your shares of responsibility based on what makes sense. You do not assign responsibilities to the other partner based on your feelings. You do not manipulate partners. You should never make your partner feel guilty because something is making you unhappy, right? Do this because I'm unhappy, and do this so I will be happy. Or solve your problem yourself and don't involve your partner in it. So we've all been there. We've all been with somebody who was making us personally responsible for their feelings and for their approval and for their own satisfaction. And so why is it on me to manage your happiness? Why is that my job? That should be your job. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this helps you. Please like, comment, or share, and I'll see you on the next video.